Hello friends, this tutorial is about the context in React. So basically we use the context in React to avoid sending of multiple values or props in the child or the nested child components. Let's suppose we have three level of components here. First one is toolbar, then inside toolbar we have themed button, and inside themed button we have these must things. So if we want to provide some value or props to this uh, themed button, I want to get some value in themed button from the topmost parent, so that I have to pass the value like this props. Any value if you want to pass here is like theme equal to from here to. Then you have also passed this theme to this one here. Then only you will get here as this dot theme inside this dot props dot theme. Okay, so to let's suppose for now in situation we have only three level of nested, but let's suppose you have only 10 or 15 level of nested components. So then you have to pass this theme in all between them. So to avoid from this scenario, we have to create example. We have created a context called theme context. Okay, so similarly we will get that for that thing. Okay, so we come up with this example, simple example. This example is that we have a theme, three types of theme here for the CSS, like light, dark, and red. And according to the scenario, we need some different theme for different component. Okay, so for let's suppose we have the same toolbar component and we have the same toolbar again here. Okay, but this time we are passing the theme dark. So when this will load, it will load with the dark theme, means this color and this color. So you can see that in the output. And similarly, another one we are calling with the theme red. So here the theme is red, accordingly it has been changed. So you can also use this one for two different things, two different scenarios, for multiple same component with different theme. Okay, so in this type of scenario you can also use the context. Okay, and the main scenario is that we don't have to pass that like this inside the whole component. Okay, so we have come with the simple example in which we have created a JSON theme in which we have light, dark, and red. So we just close it now. Okay. Now what the first step is to first step. This is the first step. What you have to do. Okay. You have to just create a context. Whatever the name should you can give. We have given the name theme context, and we can use the react.create context to create the context here. Okay, and we will pass the default value. What will be the default value? Okay, so we are just passing the default value light here. Okay, so we have just created a theme context with the default value light. Okay, now the second step is to define. Okay, so here is the second step. So this is the child component or the component or whatever the elements you want to wrap up between this context. So basically theme context will provide you two things, provider and second one is customer. Okay, consumer you can say. Okay, so the provider will provide the value to the child component, means the wrapped component, whatever the wrapped component is in between them. So it is just providing the value with the whatever you will be needed. Okay, so we have just replaced this light with new value dark. Okay, now the toolbar will get the value as dark. Okay, similarly in the another scenario, the same child component has been called between them with the provider. So theme context dot, this will be the theme context dot provider, and value whatever the second value will be passed with. Okay, now the third step, this is a simple scenario. This is just created to show you that it is a three level of nested component. Okay. And the fourth step is that how you will consume that theme context in your required component. Okay, so we have taken the example here is the class component, and this commented one is the function component. So both will be the same, will print the same, but when we have commented, so that first we will discuss about this. Okay, so this is the class component. So within the class component, we have created a class component named theme button. Okay, so whenever you want to provide this theme button component any context, you have to provide like this: theme button dot context type equal to theme context. This theme context is the theme context whatever you have been created using the React dot context. Okay, so using the help of context dot type, which is the default property you will get, and you will just set it here from like this. Okay, and then after you will have to get the value from the context like this inside this class component. This dot context. This dot context, whatever you will get from set from here, you will get it inside this theme. And then after theme dot, whatever you have just passed from light or dark, whatever you have passed, you have just passed like dark. So dark will have these two properties here, foreground and background. You will just receive like this, and you have just set this type background, theme dot background, color, theme dot foreground. Okay. So this is the example using the class component. Now we are just commenting this one so that we can show it with the function component. So when we talk about the function component, we have the hook called use context. Okay. So we will use this use context and pass, we will pass the theme context here. Theme context is our context which we have created using the react dot create context. Okay. And in this theme we will get the theme background and theme foreground. Okay, so this is the simplest. Okay, so in function component you have to use the hook called use context, and you will just pass the context here and you will get whatever the value you are receiving. Okay, and in class component you can set it by using the context type, and you will get it here in this dot context inside the class component. So you have to assign it outside the class when the class has been declared. Then after you have to set it like this. Okay. So in this context is used in the mainly in the two scenario. The first scenario is that you don't have to pass multiple nested components value, like you have to pass here, then here you will get. So we have to avoid this by using the context. And the second one is that if you want to wrap some value on the same component, then you can have different provider with the same component toolbar. Okay, so you will be displayed like this. Okay, so you can also use with the help of like a consumer where you want to use. So direct if you want to use the theme context, you can also use the theme context with customer or consumer. So prime text, text in class component. See, This is the context or consumer. Using the help of this, you can also create your element directly, okay, without help of any use scope, use context or context type, okay. So just call it here and tap with this one, and you will get the value inside this one. So you can see here is the simple example of the provider, okay, and then this is the consumer, okay. So consumer is basically the customer which who will use this one, and that is the provider who will provide the value, okay. So you can also use this like in your component, on your child component you will get the value from the. Also you can pass the multiple providers like nested providers to. There are two nested providers for this layout. There are two providers for this, and you will just receive using the consumer like theme. You will get in the theme and you will get the value of this one as user, and you will just use both of them inside this one, okay. So this is basically the context concept in React, okay. I will share this link so that you can check it out, okay.